Good afternoon, Canberra. It's Tuesday afternoon here on the right track. We've got my mate Laura here today, and we'll be discussing some NRL topics, and then a little bit later on, gumboot throwing, also better known as Welly Wanging. Laura, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you, my dear. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. So the week that was NRL, we had a pretty interesting game to start off with. Sea Eagles Panthers. I thought Sea Eagles had them in a bit there.
Yeah, definitely. I did read that Panthers did start off a bit iffy, but they managed to kind of make their way back. I thought that the Penrith Panthers would have won more. I was actually quite surprised at the end of the game when I saw the scores, and that there was only, another 12 points in it. Yeah, I thought that was actually quite surprising. I thought Penrith would have had them beaten for all money.
Yeah, me personally, it's a who cares game as a Rabbits fan. I don't care for either one of them, unfortunately. But it was still good to have on in the background, as it always is with NRL games. Were the Panthers missing any big boppers this time around?
I think it was just Luai.
Just Luai, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of Luai, to be
No, neither.
As a New South Wales Welshman through and through, when he takes the field for the Blues, I just can't stand him.
As a Queenslander.
Oh, no.
I can't stand him. But I've seen a lot of news on him recently about his signings. He's wants to play for $1 million. Do you think he's $1 million player or?
Well, I personally don't agree he's $1 million player.
Neither,
even putting my personality assessment of him aside, no.
I think he's should be asking around the $750 type of range for what he's worth. I feel as though he also ignores how big the Panthers as a team is to his success.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, yeah.
That's just what I personally believe, and that shows sometimes on the TV and through interviews and through his social media presence. He's on this entire journey where everything he does is due to his own merit, and he just kind of ignores everything that the Panthers help him do.
Yeah, I mean, on that, Bulldogs have signed a few big players from the Panthers, and they haven't been able to pull it together.
Yeah.
But when they were at the Panthers, they were absolutely slaying it.
It's all part of Gus Gould's 12-year plan.
Oh, yeah. And everyone listens to everything that man has to say.
In Gus Gould we trust.
In Gus Gould we trust. Moving on to the next game, Sharks-Titans. I didn't see much of this one, unfortunately, but it's no surprise to me that the Sharks got up by a fair bit.
The main news that I heard around this was concerning David Fifita and Tino Fa'asuamaleaui's contracts. So the Titans have both invested a lot of money in them in the next couple of years. They've invested $3 million into David Fifita until the end, and he'll be signed on until the end of 2026. And then they've invested $12 million into Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, and he'll be there until the end of this decade.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
So they really do have hopes for what Tino can do for this club. And I noticed that I did catch the end of the game where it was just a reporter and Tino, and the reporter did ask him, what made you want to stay? And Tino's like, well, it's kind of hard to explain that now. He was definitely embarrassed by his team's performance and didn't want to really talk about the money side and the business side of football. And, you just got a feel for him, really.
You do, honestly. I saw there was a meme on the internet that said all of Tino's premiership rings, and it had one as of this year, and then as of 2027 is the same amount of premiership rings. So I feel bad for Tino. I hope the Titans come good.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see him come good.
With Des Hasler now.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can bring something to the team.
Interesting fella, Des Hasler.
Yeah.
We're going to skip on to the next game now, which Laura has an affinity for as a mad Broncos fan. Do you want to take us away with this one?
Oh, well, the Broncos pretty much just put on a clinic up at the Gabba, beating the Eels 54-10. Big news out of this match was that Mitch Moses will now miss the rest of the season with his fractured cheekbone, as well as Reynolds moving up to fourth all-time scorer after his 1,000th goal as well. So pretty happy. It's happy times to be a Broncos fan. We're looking hopeful.
I mean, as a Rabbits fan, I'm sad we lost Adam Reynolds all those years ago now. I can't even, don't bear to remember it. But no, it's good to see him doing well at the Broncos. And literally, they did put on a clinic. Like, there was only a couple of answered tries in the last half.
It's really good to see also how they've come so far. Like, last year, they got off to a really good start. And then just within the last couple of rounds, they really dropped off their form and then saw them out of the top 8 altogether, pretty much. And now it's just really good to see that consistency come back to the Broncos team. And players like Pat Carrigan, Payne Haas, Herbie Farnworth, Ezra Mam, Reece Walsh really stepping up to that plate and really just making the game all about themselves, but yet somehow trying to work in the rest of the team with that as well. It's so good.
Yeah, there's so many big names that have come out of that, and a lot more crowd engagement around that I've seen just recently. I'd like to see them go all the way this year.
I would too.
I know you would after those
17 years of being a Broncos fan, 1 grand final.
Yep.
Oh, well, 2, but I was too young to remember the first one in 2006. The other one just left heartbreak and torment in primary school. So hopefully this year we can correct that and I can be happy again.
Honestly, I kind of just want anyone but the Panthers to win this year.
I mean, I feel as though I do think the Panthers will get back into the grand final.
And
I believe that the biggest hurdle for the Broncos at the moment will be the Storm in just the regular season because they face them. They've got the bye this week, Raiders, Storm at the end.
You're in Canberra territory, I'd watch out.
Yeah. No, but I feel as though their biggest hurdle will be the Storm. And then managing to find that consistency within the finals week. And if they do make it past the finals week, say if it's like a Penrith Brisbane grand final, which seems to be likely at the moment, I feel as though that will also be their biggest test.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough to say. Because the Broncos are sitting pretty at 2 at the moment, aren't they?
Second, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
We've stuck there firmly.
Great. So I remember Bunnies being at like the top of the top of the ladder at the beginning of the year, and I was like, yep, this is going to be our year. We're going to do this. Great. I can add to my tattoo. This is great. No. Look, I don't think we'll get an early silly Sunday, but it is kind of looking likely. I'm hoping we don't.
Yeah.
But as someone who's had been invested in the 2021 grand final as a Rabbits fan, who went to the 2022 one with my mother, who's a Parramatta fan, and saw how that went for both Parramatta teams who made the finals. Yeah, anybody but Panthers. That's what I'm gunning for at the moment. Anyway, we'll head on to the next game of the week that was Rabbitohs Dragons. As a Rabbits fan, I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
Yep, sitting up at the pub with a couple of old mates, having a good chat, and holding my breath sometimes. I'm glad they sealed the deal and put another try on at the end there because I was worried.
Yeah, I went to the Rabbits Tigers game recently up in Tamworth, and I was sitting there this is a for sure win for the Rabbitohs. Like, something catastrophic has to happen for the Rabbitohs to lose this. And then when they came back from halftime and the Tigers put on those 2-3 tries unanswered, I got really scared.
Yeah, we have really good first halves. Like,
yeah.
It looks really promising. I'm like, yep, great, cool, beans, chuck the 2 points on, let us have it. No.
And then they, from what I saw in that game, solid first half, kept them to 0. Really shaky first 20 minutes. And then they just came back, fought tooth and nail in the last of that. And it kind of, I don't know, it kind of worries me as well. I was like, will that actually be enough for them to push into the top 8 and keep, like, they're in 8th place now.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Will that type of performance be enough for them to stay lodged in the top 8? But also I feel as though their biggest contender will be the Roosters. The Roosters are just nipping at their heels, and they face each other in round 27. And I feel as though it could really come down to that 27th round, that clash, in determining who gets that top 8 spot.
Yeah, with that age-old rivalry, though, I hope we absolutely smash the Chooks. Roast Chook for that night, round 27. Go and get some KFC and I'll line up and grab that game. So I just wanted to have a quick shout out before we go to a song to my mate Benny Lovett, who plays for the first grade Rabbitohs. I've seen him play for the Spacemen, and he's gone all the way through to the first grade. The first grade, Anyway, playing in the NRL, absolutely smashing it. There was one game where he played 80 minutes there, which from someone who plays reserve grade quite often, that's a big effort. And they didn't do too bad against, I think it was the Doggies at the time.
I'm not sure.
Pretty sure it was. Anyway, fantastic performance by that reserve grade team, and especially my mate Benny Lovett. Moving on to the next game, West Tigers Warriors.
What do you think?
I mean, West Tigers put up a valiant effort, I will say. They have come back for a couple of different games. They have really fought valiantly for somebody who's contending for the wooden spoon.
Yeah. Solid fight, wooden spooners. Anywho. Poor them.
I feel like the women's West Tigers are giving West Tigers fans a bit of hope.
Yeah, I did hear that as well in the Rabbitohs and Tigers stands at Tamworth. They went, well, at least we have our women's team to be proud of. And I went, yep.
They're doing very well at the moment, and we'll actually have a podcast coming up where we will talk exclusively NRLW gear, so we'll continue that conversation a bit later on down the track. Was there anything else really with Tigers Warriors? That was kind of a predictable game.
Yeah, nothing that really grabbed my attention either. It was great to see the Tigers put up a score like 22-30. It was definitely unexpected for them, for sure. But I didn't really find any major talking points other than that, really.
Roosters Dolphins, the next one on the line of things, that was interesting for me after round 1 of this year. Because the odds on Dolphins were like $5.50 first round, and I thought, you know what, that'd be funny to chuck a tenner on. And I made $50.50 back, so
lovely.
I'm the least mad about it. Yeah, it was interesting to see how over the season those two teams have progressed, because the Dolphins were smashing everyone. Yeah. And it blew everyone's minds, because as a new team, no one expected them to gel as quickly as they did and to be as good of a team as they were. Yeah. And they're still holding their own for some parts, but this was kind of interesting to see how their season had ended up after losing to the Roosters this round.
I also find it quite surprising how the Roosters got off at the beginning of the year. They definitely weren't that top contender type of side that we always see from the Roosters. And it was quite surprising to see that, but they've really just come back in these last couple of rounds. Just narrow misses. It was just, I don't really know how else to put it, really.
Well, that kind of gear, you don't reckon it's the cheese that's put a bit of stunt in their growth?
Look, I'm not going to say anything.
Look, I contrary to popular opinion, I don't like the cheese. I can't stand him.
I mean, I could understand the hype around him at Melbourne, but still yet to see that for the Sydney Roosters.
It's kind of like he's gone back into the limelight a bit. Like he's not as prominent as he was.
Yeah, but he's also there's a lot of there's a lot of really good players at the Roosters. Like you got James Tedesco. Everybody was talking about his form, like how he was going into his form, going into State of Origin. How would that affect State of Origin? Didn't help any.
I've got a biased Queenslander fan actually in the studio today, so any views from a Queenslander fan? No, not valid.
It's not a view, it's simply fact. But still, even then, you've got James Tedesco, you got to go up against the likes of Victor Radley, who's had a kind of an off season as well.
Victor the Inflictor, my God, what a season he's had.
Yeah, and then still the veteran Jaria Hargraves, Billy Smith is absolutely crazy for them at the moment, and I just feel as though Brandon Smith has been kind of just drowned out in all of that noise around the Roosters.
Look, that is a fair point to put forward, because there are a lot of big faces there. Oh God, I love Victor. Victor the Inflictor, he's funny as to watch. So moving on to the next game, which is personal for a lot of Canberrans, Storm Raiders. And one of the hallmarks of this one is the Raiders have scored tries consistently over a decade from round 17, 2013, have consistently scored tries all the way up until this round, round 24 of this year.
Yeah, it would be quite jarring to Raiders fans. Also with the news of Jared Croker announcing his retirement at the end of the season.
Yeah, wow, I didn't even hear that. That was
I think
new
that broke.
development.
I think that broke last night. But
Yeah, wow.
I've seen more of it this morning. But yeah, it just would definitely be a shock to Raiders fans.
Yeah, after 300 games and everyone wearing the iconic white headgear, I think that might have been one of the calls he was going to make.
Yeah, he did put out a statement earlier on his retirement. He stated, "My heart and head still love the game, but my body's had enough." So he's felt that type of breakdown in what he's doing. And he knows that if he keeps going with his form currently, it won't at all profit the Raiders.
Yeah.
So I believe that he's just taking the stance of it's best to stand down and let somebody else take the plate, which is very admirable.
Yeah, I also saw another statement that said if anyone thinks what's a Raider like, what's a Raider man like, it's Jared Croker all the way.
Jared Croker is the embodiment of it.
Yeah, I can't fault him really. He's a lovely bloke. I've had a quick chat to him when he's gone around the stadium, and he's just a lovely bloke and plays good footy. Good bird on him. And the final game of the round, apart from the Cowboys bye, Knights Bulldogs. The tale was pretty much told there before they started out. The Knights have had just an absolute roll on over the last little bit.
They really have. They have built back their momentum coming back into these later rounds, and it's good to see them.
Yeah, good to see them winning. And have they got Kalen back? Surely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he kicked conversions, all that.
Something about the Kalen factor, maybe.
Definitely. I feel as though Kalen brings a lot of morale into the Knight side, and I feel as though that when he's been named in the team, fans and the team just really get around him and really want to see him shine, and that works out most of the time for the Knights' favour.
The next little bit, we're talking Vegas, which sounds
baby.
weird. Vegas. We'll be heading off. Well, not we, but the NRL.
We wish.
We'll be heading off to Vegas very shortly. I think it's first round next year. I think that's what they've said.
I haven't seen what round exactly, but I do imagine it'd bring in I do believe it'd be very much at the forefront of the season next year, which is exciting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting couple of teams they've picked. I mean, we're pretty happy over here in the studio. Broncos and Rabbits being chosen. Yeah. But Roosters is fair enough because it's one of the foundational teams of the NRL.
One of the oldest.
One of the oldest, yeah. Big rivalry with them, as we've already mentioned today. But Manly, what a wild card.
Yeah, I do believe that's a bit of a curveball. And when I do think of some of the major sides over the past couple of years, my mind goes to the Melbourne Storm. So I would have thought that it would be Broncos, Rabbits, Chooks, and the Storm.
Which would make sense because we've picked 3 Sydney teams out of a side that has a fair amount of Queensland fan base, and also Melbourne. I know a lot of people got on the Melbourne Storm bandwagon back in the late 2010s, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, they thought they were the bee's knees. But I would have shouted them as a trip to Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. When I think of teams with the biggest fan bases, those are the 4 that I think of. I don't really think of the Manly having that big of a fan base compared to what the Roosters have, what the Rabbits have. I mean, every Manly fan that I've ever met has been an older gentleman in his 40s.
I think the difference between Manly as a team to really any other team except maybe the Bulldogs is somebody can say, oh yeah, I kind of like the Rabbitohs, or yeah, I kind of like the Broncos, or yeah, I kind of like Para, they're okay. But with Manly and the Bulldogs, actually, it's either you love them or you hate them.
Definitely.
The only people who like Manly are Manly fans. And they're sending them to Vegas. The choices. made are very interesting. But
Choices were made by Peter V'landys, and those choices will now stick.
And that's fair. Look, I don't get paid nearly as much money as Peter V'landys or have as much pressure at all at work, so that's fair. Honestly, Mans knows what he's doing. He's floating around, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
He knows what's best for rugby league.
Rugby league, yes. All right, and there was talk of expansion again.
I have seen that now that the NRL has seen the success of what the Dolphins have done this year. So why not try to push that out to an 18-team league? Where do you think they'd go?
I don't know. I was worried about them going to Queensland in the first place, to be completely honest, because the performance of their Queensland teams. If they couldn't find any good players for their Queensland teams that already existed, how could another Queensland team do that? But they have, which, like, all props in the world to them. Like, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad about it.
I also had the concerns about another Brisbane-based team just because I'm Broncos through and through. So I got jealous at that fact, and I was like, great, they're now going to turn Brisbane into another Sydney. But they've seemed to manage it very, very well. And now I'm definitely eating my words on that prior statements.
I didn't realise that Redcliffe Dolphins, before they removed the Redcliffe, had a lot of following up there. I mean, I've only been up to Brisbane once, so it's not like I'm an expert of that area. But it was really nice to see all of those Redcliffe Dolphins fans come out of the woodwork and really support their team. Yeah,
they were really behind the expansion into it when other teams, other Queensland teams weren't really behind it, but Redcliffe Dolphins fans just really dug their heels in and really just toughed it out for their team, and it's paid off. Yeah,
it showed what the NRL fans are capable of and what NRL fans, how passionate we are.
We've seen what NRL fans have done before when the Rabbitohs were kicked out of the league.
Absolutely.
And how they came back.
2002. Yes.
But yeah, the passion of rugby league fans will never surprise, to be completely honest.
That's honestly fair. I still wouldn't know where they'd go for an expansion, though. I couldn't tell you where would be an appropriate place.
I would personally like to see another Melbourne team or even a Perth team.
Yeah, I shout the Melbourne idea. I don't know about Perth because they're very AFL. I mean, same as Melbourne.
Yeah, Melbourne and Perth are both very AFL-based type of cities with their fan bases. But, just to have the one team in Melbourne, I feel as though we could definitely open that up to a second team. And then a Perth team would be really cool. We already do a lot of rugby league games over in Perth. So what's stopping them from having a home team?
Yeah. Look, I know the Rabbits have flown over there just recently, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember which team they versed, but they've been all over the country. What mascot do you reckon this 18th expansion, what ideas have you got?
As someone who has never been to Perth, I would guess a quokka. I don't know how intimidating that would be, but they made a dolphin with teeth, and that's scary as a mascot.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the jersey unveiling and the mascot unveiling, and they were both scary in their own ways. Yes. The beige and then the dolphin.
The jersey itself, horrendous. The dolphin mascot, horrific.
A crime.
A crime. But no, that's the thing. We really don't know what type of mascot they'd have there. I haven't heard much of the local what the local rugby league scene is over in Perth as well, so I wouldn't know what to expect. And then on the other hand, for Melbourne, also very hard to gauge what they would be, because again, like we said, a massive AFL fan base. So what is their rugby league scene like in the first place?
Yeah, what's the scene?
Yeah.
What's my scene?
Where is it?
I don't know. So today, weird and wacky topic is gumboot throwing, or better known as, Laura,
Welly Wanging.
Welly Wanging, okay.
What a funny little giggle.
So this was created in a place called Upper Thong, which I think is a great place to be from. Upper Thong near Holmfirth in West Yorkshire. Apparently old mate got mad for getting somebody's drink spilled on him, and he went outside, and since they're all farmers there, or not all of them, but since majority of the population are farmers, he took off his Wellington boot and smacked him with it. Or threw it.
As any self-respecting farmer would.
Absolutely. as someone from a farming community in rural New South Wales, I know several people who would gladly throw a Wellington at someone.
I'm pretty sure that was a Christmas activity one year for us.
I feel like us Australians have invented our own little versions.
That and like yabby racing.
God, yabby racing.
Get on that next
Yeah,
week.
get on that. Yabby racing. I love yabby racing. So now it has turned into a contest to see how far you can throw the Wellington boot within the border from the starting line. So I believe there's a whole border that you had to fit in, and it's not just as far as you can throw.
It definitely sounds like, I just read up the technique, and it definitely sounds like a shot put discus, almost hybrid of a very weird inanimate object.
So to put it in Australian slang, it's like the bogan version of discus and shot put.
Yeah. It says here for the best way, I looked up, what is the best way to throw a welly? And it came back with me. When you are ready, quickly move your weight onto your back foot and throw the welly boot as far as possible by extending your arm and moving your weight back onto your front foot. So you stand at like your little barrier as you would if you were lining up a shot put throw. So you have your like dominant stance. So if you're right hand, you'd line up your left foot when you hold the object you're throwing in your dominant hand, and you lean back to gain your momentum, and then you just yeet it as far as you possibly can. And
there you go. What a sport. I've just seen that there's a couple of different ways you can throw it. You can do the one-handed. You can do double-handed.
Oh.
For beginners, you can go through the legs, like you're doing a kettlebell at the gym.
Yeah, right.
I reckon I could practice that.
Yeah.
I remember last week I made a lot of outrageous claims that I was going to start all these different UC clubs. Don't know if I'll throw gun boot throwing into the mix, but
Welly Wanging isn't part of your criterias?
Welly Wanging, no, I don't think so. No.
Damn.
I know.
Missed opportunity.
I don't
Someone
think
start that though.
I don't think I even have any Wellington boots at the moment. Like, that was a thing I had a lot of as a kid, but like I don't own a pair.
I traded my Wellingtons for snow boots.
That is fair. Like Uggs or like proper snow boots?
Like proper snow boots.
Ooh.
Have used them once. They just take up room.
Well, I mean, we're in Canberra and you're from Forbes.
They're warm though, like they're warm as, but like
no snow.
It snowed once here.
Like
a couple months back.
Oh my god.
But like one night.
Yeah, and you spot Laura out in the middle of Belco just skipping in her snow boots.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Don't mind me.
But it rains here way more than it snows. Why did you swap your welly boots?
It wasn't my choice, really. I didn't have slippers. They're like Sherpa line, these snow boots. They're so good.
And you were like, yep. Instead of like a pair of Ugg boots,
Yeah.
full-blown snow boots.
Yeah, but now I want Ugg boots now, so
Oh my god.
that's on the Christmas list.
There's no doubt about you. Oh my god. Righto. Yeah. So welly throwing is our wacky random thing of the day, for sure. I don't know. I think I'm just bewildered by the whole thing, really.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't really know what to say, honestly, about that one. Yeah.
Like, I definitely knew that it was a thing, but it's like something with a deep entrenched history and multiple articles on what's the best technique to throw a welly, and it was just kind of took me by surprise, and like how it's stretched over. Like, I thought it was kind of like an Australian New Zealand thing only, but of course no, it started over in some place in England.
Imagine if that's how all like sports were started, like over an argument in Australia. We'd have so many different sports.
Yeah, we'd have a lot of blood sports, I imagine.
We would, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like Mad Max, but like not as like dusty.
Like original Mad Max with Mel Gibson, or
Yeah, I've only seen the second one because my neighbour's brother was in it, and he was the one that got his fingers chopped off, so we had to watch it.
oh, wowie.
I know. It was very important. Absolutely. Just like to say thanks to everyone for listening today, and thanks to my guest Laura here.
Thanks for having me.
No worries, we had a great chat. We had a question. Yes, if you think you know what the 18th expansion team's mascot should be, please DM me on Instagram at ontherighttrack.podcast, and we'll bring it up next week. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Maggie Wright. Thanks for listening.